Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Trouble. Oh, we got trouble. Right here in River City. With a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pull. We've surely got trouble. Right here in River City. Got to figure out a way to keep the young ones moral after school. Our children's gonna have trouble. Yeah, we've got trouble right here in River City. Oh yeah, some of you know where that comes from. Come on, you have to know. I could have tried to do it more in line with the musical, but I think you know where that comes from, right? You know those words, correct? And in a roundabout way, well, they had trouble in River City trying to figure out what to do to keep the kids moral after school, right? They didn't want them playing pool. Okay, but and for those who don't know, well, you can Google it. You can figure it out. Okay, but in a roundabout way, we got trouble right here in Abilene, Texas. We got trouble right here on the Theology Central podcast. And we're going to talk about that right after I say, welcome everyone. It is Wednesday, May the 29th, 2024. It is currently 11:12 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live right here from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas, where we've got trouble. And that trouble, well, trouble with a capital T. That rhymes with, well, I guess theology and stands for, I don't know, podcasting. I would have to rewrite the lyrics. But we have a little bit of trouble. And I always end up in trouble when I do something that I don't think is really allowed within Christianity. You see, when I open a Bible, and I tend not to Christianize the Bible, Disneyfy the Bible, Hallmark Channel the Bible. I tend to open the Bible and go, man, this is ugly and this is horrible and this is not so pretty. When I don't paint the picture of, Mr. and Mrs. Noah standing on the deck of the boat with the smiling giraffe behind them as the sun sets over the beautiful water, when I don't Disneyfy the flood and I talk about all the people who died, and I talk about how horrible that is, that everyone was just killed, and I'm like, okay, when I talk about Abram and Hagar, when I talk about what Lot did, when I don't cover it up with some like, oh, look how nice and beautiful this is. I tend to try to show the rawness of it, the ugliness of it. And to me, I think we do ourselves a great disservice when we want to Disneyfy it, if I say the word correctly, Hallmark Channel it, or Christianize it. When we want to make it all nice and for general audience, we want to make it rated G. I think we do ourselves a disservice because when we open the Bible, you know what we find? We find the ugliness of life. We find sin. We find flawed people. And if we were more real with what's in the Bible, I think it would feel like that we're seeing ourselves. I don't know. It's like we look at the Bible and it's almost like we can't recognize anyone there because we've so turned it into a Disney movie. We Disneyfied it, as I keep saying. We've so almost rewritten it that we can't see that these individuals were flawed and horrible things took place. It's almost like we can't admit it. And immediately, if someone points out the ugliness in it, if someone points out the difficulty in it, someone will come along and go, no. And we become defensive and we feel like we have to defend it and we have to somehow protect it. It doesn't need protecting. It's the Word of God. I think we should see it in all of its rawness. We should see it unfiltered. We should see it undisneyfied. We should see it in its true. I don't want the edited version, right? When I open up the music streaming service, I don't want the edited version. I want the version as the artist originally gave it. Well, I want the version as the artist originally gave it. And that artist would happen to be, I don't know, the creator of the universe, God, and this is what he gave us. And sometimes it is ugly. But when I do that, when I try to ask these tough questions and talk about the difficulty in the text and how this is disturbing, people immediately like, no. It's really not that bad. It really, and it's like, and so then I find myself in trouble with a capital T. And I hate that. But at the same time, I feel like I'm going to continue to push back that desire to make it seem so nice and sweet. Look at your life. Look at my life. Look at the lives of people all around you. Look at 2,000 years of church history. It's ugly. It's a story of broken, flawed people fighting, backbiting, disagreements, sin, every kind of sin you can imagine. If we keep it more real, then it's more relatable when we read it. But we so want to turn these people into one-dimensional little pictures we show in Sunday school class to kids. They're not one-dimensional human beings. They are complex. Human beings are complex. There's multiple layers to every human being. So I find myself in trouble. So let me do a little bit of trying to explain some things to people just really quick before we can advance into this trouble. So there's trouble because of the way I think people get mad at me, but I think it's also trouble with a capital T because of the text we're looking at. It's just trouble. It's an ugly text that has so many different names, so many moving parts. Just trying to keep it all straight is difficult. But before we get to that, let me try to explain at least two things so that people will understand, all right? Number one, people need to understand my teaching method and my study approach, all right? My teaching method, what I really desire to do is I like to teach as if we're sitting down together and we're working through the text together, right? So I like to sometimes teach as if I don't even know what's getting ready to happen. Like, wait, did Solomon do this? Because a lot of times when I do that, I'll get an email and someone will say, in which I got some emails, you're an idiot. Just, why don't you the answer is so obvious. And I'm like, I know the answer. You don't understand what I'm doing. And it's just funny. Someone telling me I'm the idiot are the people who don't get what I'm trying to do. And I think it's obvious what I'm trying. I try to teach as if like, wait. Who's this talking to this woman? Wait, why is this thing trying to get this woman to eat this fruit? Wait, what is going to happen? What's going to occur? Because I'm trying to get you involved in it, like we're going through it the first time. And by doing that, hopefully, for at least some people who may know the answer, may not know the answer, either way, it will drive them to actually look in the text, to look ahead, to study, to read, to find answers. See, if I just give you all the answers, then you just sit there passively laying on your couch eating a bag of Doritos, doing nothing. I want you not on the couch eating a bag of Doritos, but sitting at a table with a Bible, a notebook, and digging in and working on things. And anyone who's been listening to me knows that that's my method of teaching. Even people in my church in the past have confused that. Well, what about this and what about... You don't understand. I'm teaching it as if I don't know the answer because I'm trying to get you to go find the answer. Right? So I think some people just misunderstand my teaching approach. I like it to sit down like, hey, you got your Bible, I got my Bible. Okay, let's figure this out together. And that teaching method really reflects my study approach. I know this is confusing to people. I know this confounds people to no end. But when I study the Bible, I like to approach it as if I've never read it before. I've read the story of Solomon I don't know how many times. I've read 1 Kings, 2 Kings. I've had seminary classes on 1 Kings and 2 Kings. I've had classes in Bible Institute, Bible College, seminary. I've probably even written papers on some of it. But I like to approach it as if I've never read this for the first time. Because when I study it, that's what I try to do. I try to study as if I don't know. Because if all I do when I study the text now is just bring in all of my understanding from the past to the current study, then it blinds me from seeing anything in the text that I may have missed before or that I may have gotten wrong before. See, when I sit down and look at the text as if it's brand new, right? Well, then there's a great chance that I may see something that I've never seen before. If I just bring in what I've known from the past, it blinds you. It handcuffs you to the past. I don't want to be blinded. I don't want to be handcuffed to the past. I want to see the text anew because I may realize that I've seen things, I've missed things in the past and I'm seeing things I've never seen before. So because I study that way, then I tend to teach that way. I teach as if I have no clue. What is Solomon going to do? Did Solomon kill these people? Did Solomon not kill these people? What happened? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Well, and you say, well, that's just foolish. No, to me, that's smart because it allows me to see the text as if I'm experiencing it for the first time. And if every time I open the Bible, I'm experiencing it for the first time, then it's always new, it's always fresh, and I can always see it with new eyes, with fresh eyes. I can always see it as seeing it new, not just going, well, this is the way we understand. My team says this is the way I don't care about your team or my team. I don't care how your church says it should be understood. I don't care. I want to see the text as the text is, not with all of these presuppositions being brought into the text. So then I teach that way. So we stumble through it. We try to figure it out. Well, what about this? What could be? Well, maybe this. A lot of times I'm literally in real time questioning and challenging it. So I don't know why that causes trouble with a capital T, but for some people, they just don't get that. They immediately want to attack me as not knowing what I'm doing or being an idiot. It's like, man, you're not getting what I'm trying to do. And then a second thing. Look, I know. I hope everyone understands. When I raise the difficult questions, when I call into question and maybe go, I don't know about this. I know it makes everyone nervous. But if you will at least allow me to do that, I think good things come from asking questions. I think good things come from challenging the status quo. I think something good comes from going, wait a minute. I know that everyone, when we read about Solomon, everyone's going to be like, oh, well, look, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, who cares that he was committing adultery on a regular, consistent basis? Who cares he was a polygamist? Who cares he ended up an idolater? Who cares he killed all of these people? And we always kind of want to minimize it. And again, we want to Christianize it. And when I kind of raise the question, I think some people get very nervous. And I don't know why we get so defensive. It's the text. Let the text breathe. Let the text speak and embrace the conflict, embrace the difficulty, embrace what sometimes you're like, whoa, that seems like a crazy contradiction. Wait, the Bible seems to say this, but it says this. How do we reconcile it? I know what Christians we start pulling out all the cliches. It does not contradict. It complements. Oh, okay, great. Now everyone feels better. Well, maybe we go, I don't know. It doesn't seem to make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. There's problems here. And it's like Christians don't like for me to say that. Now, look, and that's okay. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of podcasts that will speak the language of your team. You will always feel safe. The Bible will always be polished over, and it will be, acceptable for a general audience. It will be rated G. All the difficulties, all the complexities, all the ugliness will be gone, and you will have the nice edited version, and you'll be happy, and you can play it in your car for your kids. But I don't think it's always so nice like that. I would rather see it in its rawness and its, at times, ugliness, because you know what? That's life. So I understand there's trouble right here in Abilene, Texas, right here in the Theology Central podcast. And it starts with a T, a capital T, and that stands for theology. And it rhymes with P, which stands for podcasting. So, okay, all right, let me see. I'm going to rewrite those lyrics. All right, but are you ready to embrace a little bit of this trouble today? Are you ready? Now, I know I just spent 14 minutes clarifying that, but man, sometimes I get frustrated at some of the reactions people have to me. I'm like, you're not understanding what I'm doing. You're not understanding. I can't remember which podcast app. It was someone was saying, I think it was a Bible study exercise or something where I was doing my typical teaching, like I don't necessarily know the answer. And someone was like, this guy's a complete idiot. If he would have just read 4 verses ahead, he would have found the answer. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't know that the answer was 4 verses ahead. You're absolute. I was a complete idiot. Or maybe you just don't understand what I'm trying to do. Which I think I try to make it extremely clear. All right. And again, it's just like everyone just, I think everyone just expects that everyone who talks behind a microphone just wants to talk, that they want to speak as if they've got it all authoritatively and as if here's the answer and here's my 3-point outline. And I would rather like, hey guys, let's just stumble through this together let's just stumble through it as if we don't know it. That keeps us, I think that's a more humble approach. And I think that keeps the handcuffs off and it opens our eyes to see things maybe we've never seen before. I hope that makes sense. I know it doesn't. I know obviously my approach and my unique approach is not popular. I understand that. It's not what most people want. I understand that. But come on. Out of the millions and millions of things online for you to listen to, someone can't just have a different approach. Someone can't just be more unique. There's got to be a way to be unique. All right. So that's what we're going to do. So are you ready? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the summer of Proverbs. All right. Right now for the book of Proverbs, first we have the Sermons 2.0 app challenge going on. You're supposed to be grabbing the Sermons 2.0 app each day and finding a random sermon on the book of Proverbs. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right? And you're supposed to be writing down the name of the sermon and the speaker, the church, whatever, and then just a 1-sentence summary of that sermon so that you remember it. And obviously, if you can take notes, that would be great. So you're supposed to be doing that. I've given you a quiz for our introduction to the book of Proverbs, because for this study of Proverbs, I'm taking somewhat of a unique approach at the beginning. My unique approach is based off Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1, where we are going to be for maybe the next 13 years. And that approach is this. Let me read it. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. Some of you should have it memorized by now. Are you ready? The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. The Proverbs of Solomon. I put forth a question right there. Why Solomon? Why Solomon? These are the Proverbs of Solomon. Proverbs are usually kind of spoken of as these like little phrases, these short ideas about wisdom, right? They're to impart wisdom. They're to impart insight. They are to impart, understanding. We could talk a little bit more. We'll do a little bit more work on the definition of a proverb. But there's these little short statements, short sayings that imparts wisdom or understanding. So the book of Proverbs is all about wisdom. Well, this is the Proverbs of Solomon. The initial answer is, well, of course, when I ask the question, why Solomon, someone's going to scream back, well, you should know that it's Solomon because Solomon is the wisest man who ever lived. What better person to give us wisdom? And I'm going to push back on that. You may say he's the wisest man who ever lived, but I will say Solomon, who gave us Proverbs, was the most extravagant fool in the history of the Bible. There's no one in the Bible who was more extravagant in his foolishness. His foolishness was more exaggerated than anybody else's. So we're saying, well, someone say, why Solomon? Well, he was the wisest. Well, you almost imply at that point, well, these Proverbs of Solomon, because Solomon was wise. So is this Solomon imparting his wisdom? Well, his wisdom came from God. But if he's writing under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, well, then even though Solomon is the vessel, Solomon is the tool writing it, this is actually the Proverbs of God through Solomon, right? So when I say why Solomon, well, he was the wisest person. Is this just Solomon imparting his wisdom? And then how do you explain that the wisest man who ever lived, supposedly, happened to be the most extravagantly foolish in all of history? So I think it's acceptable to ask why Solomon, because I think it raises serious questions. I think it's a question that we're going to continue to work on. So I decided to kind of do a little background work on Solomon, right? Why Solomon? Well, let's try to find out all we can about him. So I gave you some questions. One of those questions is, well, what advice did David give Solomon? Found in 1 Kings chapter 2. And that has sparked a journey through 1 Kings chapter 2. Because there's some crazy things in this text. There's some ugly things in this text. Because when I say a Solomon was extravagantly foolish, let's make sure there can be no argument about this. Solomon, the man who gives us these proverbs, and I repeat this over and over and over, but whenever I repeat it, people don't like hearing it, but I'm going to continue to repeat it. Solomon was a serial adulterer. He didn't just commit adultery once or twice or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. We probably don't even know how to calculate the number, considering how many women he had when you add up all of his wives and all of his concubines. Isn't it around 1,000, class? He was a serial polygamist, adulterer. He becomes an idolater, polygamist. And oh, wait, we're finding out something else. He was a murderer because he has a lot of people killed. In fact, he, in a sense, serves as David's hitman, as we talked about yesterday. And today we're going to look at, well, his killing continues. He's got someone else he's going to kill. So he's going to kill a family member. A murderer, an adulterer, a polygamist, an idolater. Why Solomon? Well, the most extravagantly foolish man ever is the one whose name is given to the book of Proverbs, which is a book all about wisdom. Now, I think maybe there's a poetic beauty to the fact that it's Solomon, right? It's kind of subversive, but I think it's kind of poetic in a sense. And maybe we'll talk about that more. I'm still trying to get you to think about it. Remember, that was one of the questions I gave you. So let's go back to 1 Kings and see if we can advance this. I know we've spent 22 minutes here, but that's okay. Some of these things needed to be said. Because I really want your approach to this is when you're looking at Solomon, I want you to see not the little Sunday school picture in the coloring book for kids of Solomon. Ooh, and all the kids go, oh, we learned about Solomon, Mommy and Daddy, and he was such a great guy. He was the wisest ever. And like they walk away with a complete misunderstanding of who Solomon was. Now, I don't know exactly how you handle Solomon to kids. I don't know. Hey, well, he was a king. We won't talk about all the things he did today, kids. Or I don't know exactly how you approach that, but at some point the kids have to understand that the people in the Bible are not these one-dimensional superheroes. They are multi-layered, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, 6-dimensional human beings that are just as sinful as their mommy and daddy, and just as sinful as they are, and just as sinful as their pastor is, and just as sinful as their Sunday school teacher is. We're not reading a comic book. In some cases, comic books do a better job showing the flaws of their heroes than Christians do, and than acknowledging the sin in the people in the Bible. But let's go through this quickly and see how far we can get, all right? So we're going to have to do a quick review here, all right? So let's do this. Let's first of all read the advice that David gave Solomon. We read this in 1 Kings chapter 2, and we read this in verses 1 through, I believe it's 4. Yeah, 1 through 4, all right? 1 Kings 2, 1 through 4, we'll just go through this quickly. Now the days of David drew near that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, so David is getting close to dying. He calls in Solomon. He has some words for him. He says, I go the way of all the earth. Be strong, therefore, and prove yourself a man. Keep the charge of the Lord your God to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that you may prosper in all that you do, and wherever you turn, that you may prosper in all that you do and wherever you turn, that the Lord may fulfill his word which he spoke concerning me, saying, if your sons take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, he said, you shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. Well, it can be absolutely demonstrated and proven that Solomon does not obey any of that. Okay, we could spend a lot of time and talking about that. We already have. All right, so there goes the advice. There's the advice. Hey, Solomon, prove yourself to be a man. And we talked about that. We did an entire broadcast about that. And then this comes now to the section where David is like, hey, Solomon, I need a hitman. I need you to take some people out. And so David, in a sense, provides Solomon his list. Here's my hit list for you to get rid of. All right, are you ready? So we start in verse 5. Moreover, you know also what Joab. All right, so now let's do this. We're going to start making a list of characters found in this section of Scripture. We obviously have David, the father of Solomon, David, the king, David, a very flawed man. Don't act like he was. Just remember that, David was an adulterer and David was a polygamist. He had up to like eight wives that we have, named. I think we have around 8 wives. Can you list all of the names of David's wives? Can you? Right? So, because David was a flawed man. I know it's shocking, but he was a flawed man. Well, he has Solomon. And who was Solomon's mother? Okay. Oh, all right. Well, I think she was the woman involved in David's affair. Okay. All right. We won't get into all of that. But we have David, we have Solomon. And then, so far in the text, those are the 2 main characters. And then we have this character mentioned. Moreover, you know also what Joab. Now, I'm just going to my own personal, where I sometimes struggle. I never want to refer to this person as Joab. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know why. Maybe because I spend so much time trying to figure out how to pronounce Zerahiah. All right, Zerahiah, right? I'm like Zerahiah. It's Zer. I want to say Zerahiah, but it's Zerahiah, right? So I spend so much time trying to make sure I say that correctly, Zerahiah, that in fact, even in my notes when I was writing down the list of characters, guess what I put down? I put David, Solomon, Zerahiah. And then I caught myself, no, it's Joab. Why are you getting so preoccupied with Zerahiah? Because I want to make sure I say it correctly, all right? But here we go. So moreover, you know also that, moreover, this is what David is saying to Solomon. Hey, you know also what Joab, the son of Zerahiah, did to me. Now, David, he's got an issue here. He's bothered by something that happened in the past. And what happened in the past is this person by the name of Joab, the son of Zerahiah, well, he had some issues. Let me remind you a little bit about what this person did. Joab, the son of Zerahiah, was a key figure in King David's army and played a significant role in various events throughout David's reign. But there were some things that he was involved in, like the killing of Abner. Joab had previously killed Abner, a prominent commander who had defected from Saul's side to join David. Despite Abner seeking reconciliation with David, Joab harbored a deep-seated grudge against him for killing his brother Asahel during a battle. In an act of revenge, Joab murdered Abner at Hebron, going against David's wishes for peace and reconciliation. Now, we covered this, but I want to really add some things here. I want you to know what Joab, the son of Zerahiah, I want you to know exactly what he does here. He kills someone, but I want you to see all of the parts involved in the killing here, right? Because this is the first one mentioned in 1 Kings 2:5. And I think some of the parts, we can't ignore how some of this shows back up later in this chapter, all right? Just follow me, all right? It may sound like I'm spending way too much time here, but I have a reason for this. There's a method to this, all right? So we have Joab, the son of Zerahiah. He's a key figure in King David's army, and he played a significant role in various events. So he kills Abner. Joab had previously killed Abner, who was a prominent commander who had defected from Saul's side to join David. Despite Abner seeking reconciliation with David, Joab harbored a deep-seated grudge. So Abner sought reconciliation. Abner wanted to make things right. But Joab was like, no. You're not going to make things right. There's not going to be reconciliation. There's not going to be forgiveness. There's not going to be, happy, sing kumbaya, everyone's going to be okay. No. Because, why? He held a deep-seated grudge. Why? Because Abner had killed his brother, Asahel, if I can say his name correctly. Asahel, there we go, Asahel, during a battle. So he's upset with this man for what he had done. He holds a grudge. Even though the man sought reconciliation, he doesn't, because you killed my brother. And in act of revenge, Joab murdered Abner at Hebron, going against David's wishes for peace and reconciliation. David wanted peace and reconciliation, but Joab was like, no. You killed my brother. You killed my brother. That's a grudge. That's revenge. Keep that on. Even though the man wanted reconciliation, Joab was like, absolutely not. So he kills Abner. He kills Amasa. Another incident involved Joab ambushing and killing Amasa, who was appointed by David to be the commander of his army. Joab saw Amasa as a threat to his position and authority, leading him to commit this act of treachery to maintain his own power within David's ranks. So, guess what? Joab acts according. His killings, he kills two individuals. His killings are motivated by two things: revenge, even though the man wanted reconciliation, revenge, and really, to maintain power, to maintain position, to maintain control, to try to protect himself or to gain position. That was his motivation. Keep that in mind. That is his motivation. So now David is getting to the end of his life. So then he calls in Solomon and he says, hey, you know what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me and what he did to the two commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner, the son of Ner, and Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he killed. And he shed the blood of war in peace the time, and he put the blood of war on his belt, and that was around his waist, and on his sandals that were on his feet. Therefore, do according to your wisdom, and do not let his gray hair go down to the grave in peace. I want this man to die. But please, I cannot stress to you, note everything about Joab. He kills two people out of simple revenge and to maintain position and power. Now, why does David want him killed? Does David want him killed just because of these things he did? Maybe so. Maybe this is about justice, or maybe David wants the man killed to ensure and protect Solomon's initial reign as king. He's doing it for position and power. Is he doing it out of pure motive for justice? Or does he want this done, hey, to protect yourself, to maintain your power, to maintain your control? You got to get this person. This person has to die. I don't know. And we're just remember that name, Joab, the son of Zeruiah. Remember that. You may struggle remembering. Well, yeah, we will. We won't go into all some other names there, but you just remember that. All right, remember that name. All right. Now, the next name is in verse 7. So we've got David, we got Solomon, we got Joab, the son of Zeruiah. Those are the three main characters. I know there's all these other names that come in there, but those are the three main characters. All right. But then verse 7, but show kindness to the son of Barzillai. Barzillai, all right? So show kindness to the sons of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table, for so they came to me when I fled from Absalom, your brother. All right? Now, Barzillai is pretty simple. He shows kindness. He helps David, and David now wants to, in a sense, hey, you show kindness to them and make sure they're taken care of. All right, so that one's the nice one, right? This one is the one you can teach the kids about showing kindness to others, right? You may want to skip the killing part, but Barzillai is a good one to teach in Sunday school. But so David wants Joab, the son of Zeruiah. He wants him dead. That's the first man on his hit list. Now, again, you may say this is about justice. This is about righteousness. Or is David just like, hey, Solomon, you got to get rid of this guy. You got to get rid of this guy. He's a threat to your kingdom. He's a threat to your rule. He'll be a threat to your reign. Is this about politics? Is this about power? Is this about position? Or is this about godliness? Now we want to come in and we want to justify everything. But why do we feel the need to justify everything? But wait, now we get to the next one. Now the next one is in verse 8. And you see, you have with you Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite from Baharem, who cursed me with a malicious curse in the days when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at the Jordan. And I swore to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put you to death with the sword. All right, so there's this man by the name of Shimei. He cursed me with a malicious curse in the days when I went down to Mahanaim, right? Or Mahanaim, depending on how you want to say it, all right? This man did this horrible things to me, but he came down to meet me at the Jordan. And when he came down to meet me at the Jordan, this is what David said. I swore to him by the Lord. I swore to him. I made an oath to him. I swore to him by God, saying, I will not put you to death. All right. That sounds, wow. So David, man, what a forgiving man. This man cursed you. This man did. And now you don't want him to be put to death. You made a promise to him. Great. But then the next verse is where it kind of goes, wait, what just happened? Now, therefore, do not hold him guiltless, for you are a wise man and you know what you ought to do to him. But bring his gray hair down to the grave with blood. What in the world? Now, if you read a little bit about Shimei, yeah, he did some messed up things. But Shimei came to David and basically begged for forgiveness. He confessed. You can read about it all in 2 Samuel 19, 18 through 23. I was going to read it all right now, but I'm not going to read it all right now. He begs for forgiveness. And David's like, okay, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to kill you. In fact, when you get down to the end, he talks to the sons of Zeruiah. Right. Well, we have a son of Zeruiah I already mentioned. And then he tells him this. This is in 2 Samuel. At the very end, he says to this, what right do you have to interfere? Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? Don't I know that today I am king over Israel? This is what David says. So the king said to Shimei, you shall not die. And the king promised him an oath. One commentary. This passage illustrates how Shimei acknowledged his wrongdoing, sought forgiveness from David, and received mercy from the king despite his previous actions against him. Oh, what a beautiful story. And now all of a sudden we're in 1 Kings, and David is like, hey, you know what to do. Get rid of him. Kill him. And you're like, what is going on here? Why is David doing it? Why? Well, remember Joab, the son of Zeruiah? Remember the reasons he killed those two men? Revenge and power and politics and position. Maybe David wants now Shimei killed because why? You need to establish your throne, Solomon. You need to ensure that you've got power and your enemies are nowhere around you. Now, is that godly wisdom or is this just earthly? This would be the same kind of wisdom used by anyone in the world. This would be used by any lost fleshly king. Hey, kill your enemies, destroy them so they cannot bother you. There's nothing like, oh, wow, such godly wisdom. Anybody would use this. The mafia will use this. The terrorist will kill those who threaten us. Get rid of those who could pose a problem to us. This is how everyone responds. That's a crazy story. So then, verse 10, so David rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. The period that David reigned over Israel was 40 years. 7 years he reigned in Hebron, and in Jerusalem he reigned 30 years. Then Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his kingdom was firmly established. Yeah, his kingdom is firmly established because David told him to kill people, I guess, who could put forth or pose any possible threat to his kingdom. That's all crazy. Now, here we go. So we have we have these characters. We have David, Solomon, Joab, the son of Zeruiah, Barzillai, and we have Shimei. Now, remember those names. Now, before we return back to those names, because some of those names are going to come back up, but before we can get to them, we have this interlude that happens. This weird interlude, and we have a new name brought into these characters. This new name is found in verse 13. So Solomon's sitting on the throne. Everything is firmly established. Everything seems good. And then all of a sudden on a Tuesday, okay, at 3 p.m., I don't know what time it was, may have been late at night. Now, Adonijah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba. Oh, now we have all kinds of other people coming in. Oh, we got Adonijah. Who is Adonijah? Who is Adonijah? All right. He was one of the sons of King David. All right. David has many sons because David had many wives. In fact, he had at least eight wives. And this is one of the sons of David from Haggith. All right. He was one of the sons of King David and Haggith. He is described as being a very handsome man who aspired to become king after the death of his father, King David. All right? All right? Adonijah claim to the throne was based on the fact that he was the oldest surviving son of David at the time. And he's the oldest. So he would think, well, then, if he's the oldest, then why does he not get the throne? Right? Now, when King David, just a little bit of background on Adonijah, when King David was old and weak, Adonijah took advantage of the situation and proclaimed himself as king without David's knowledge or approval. He gathered supporters and held a sacrificial feast to establish his self-proclaimed kingship. However, Bathsheba and the prophet Nathan informed King David about Adonijah's actions, and David quickly took steps to ensure that Solomon, the son he had chosen as his successor, would be crowned king instead. Now, what do you have here? Even in the Bible, even in these people who believe in the true God, even, guess what? You have family drama. You have people being competitive, being deceptive, everyone moving to try to advance their own purpose and their own cause. Because that's how it is even amongst God's people, even though we want to try to pretend it's not. This kind of conniving and trying to get position and power, this stuff happens even in churches where some people don't like the pastor because they feel like he's got too much control. They will try to drive him out. You'll have a group of people trying to move this. The pastor will try to be manipulating by getting people on his side. And there's always these little conniving little politics going on. Happens in denominations, happens in churches, happens in Christian families. We got to be able to acknowledge this. Upon learning about Solomon's being anointed as king, Adonijah became fearful for his life and sought refuge by clinging to the horns of the altar. Solomon assured Adonijah that if he proved himself to be a worthy and righteous man, he would be spared. All right, so in a sense, Solomon kind of does what David did, right? Where he, to Shimei, hey, you're not going to die. And then David turns around and says, like, you got to go. Well, in a sense, Solomon, and in some ways, kind of given at least similar assurance. Maybe not, David gave an oath, but maybe not to that degree. All right? But then what happens? So that's a little bit about Adonijah. Now, obviously, he's got some issues, and he may have some grudges, and he may be conniving. So why is Adonijah showing up now? Solomon is on the throne. His kingdom is firmly established. So Adonijah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. So she said, do you come peaceably? Now, she's a little, obviously, suspicious. Why is this guy tried to get the kingdom? This guy tried to take the throne. Now he's showing up. What is he doing? Why is he trying to show up? Bathsheba. Now you got Bathsheba, you got again, this is the results of polygamy, multiple wives, all the things, all these issues now come back to be difficult here. All right. And then what happens? And he said, peaceably. Moreover, he said, I have something to say to you. And she said, say it. Verse 15. Then he said, the that all the kingdom was mine, and all Israel had set their expectations on me that I should reign. However, the kingdom has been turned over and has become my brother's, for it was from the Lord. Now, do you think he really believes that it was from the Lord? How do you read that? Do you really like it? He's like, and it was from the Lord. He sounds so pious. Hey, you got nothing to fear from me, Bathsheba. I'm here peaceably. I understand God is the one who put my brother on the throne. I'm perfectly okay with that. Or is this all just deception? Because again, one of the things we all have to ask ourselves is how many times we use God to simply obtain what we want. We use the disguise of self-righteousness when we're really conniving, backstabbing people. I've seen that happen in the church many times. The people who will split a church and cause trouble and gossip and slander and destroy people, all do it in the name of their God because they think so. Well, he's like, hey, I know it was from the Lord. Now I ask one petition of you. Do not deny me. And she said to him, say it. Then he said, please speak to King Solomon. For he will not refuse you that he may give Abishag the Shunammite as wife. So he wants Abishag the Shunammite as his wife. So Bathsheba said, very well, I will speak for you to the king. Bathsheba therefore went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah. And the king rose up to meet her and bowed down to her and sat down on his throne and had the throne set for the king's mother. So he sat at his right hand. Then she said, I desire one small petition of you. Do not refuse me. And the king said to her, ask it, my mother, for I will not refuse you. So she said, let Abishag, the Shunammite, be given to Adonijah, your brother, as wife. So Bathsheba seems to think that this is an acceptable thing. He goes to Saul. Maybe she does, or maybe she knows how Solomon's going to respond. I don't know. Maybe she knows how this is going to go down. I mean, you see, the text leaves us with a lot of things to try to speculate about, which is somewhat dangerous. That's why we would never want to develop doctrine from our speculations. But sometimes when you read the text, it doesn't give us a narrator explaining anything. It just gives us the basic facts. But she goes, and she's going to, either Bathsheba is perfectly okay with this, thinks that this is a good thing for Solomon to do, or she knows, like, okay, buddy, you want me to ask Solomon? Sure, I'll do this, knowing exactly what's going to happen. Because maybe she seems somewhat suspicious of Adonijah. So why would she then just turn around and be like, sure, I'll ask? Or maybe she's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to ask. Yeah, you're going to regret me asking. I don't know what her motives are here. The text doesn't say. And now look what happens in verse 22. And King Solomon answered and said to his mother, now why do you ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom also, for he is my brother, my older brother. For him and for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab the son Zeruiah, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah, there's Joab again. Then King Solomon swore by the Lord, saying, may God do so to me and more also, if Adonijah has not spoken this word against his own life. Now therefore, as the Lord lives, who has confirmed me and set me on the throne of David my father, and who has established a house for me, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death today! ! Solomon does not take kindly to this request. He clearly perceives this to be a threat. Now remember the first person, Joab, Zeruiah, the people he kills two people. One of them is simply revenge because the man, even though he sought reconciliation, had killed his brother. It's just a straight up a plot of revenge. The second man he kills, it's all about position and power, and he's trying to establish himself. Now, Solomon, he sees this as a threat. Oh, wait. Hey, Mom, if you're going to ask for this, why don't you just take my whole kingdom from me? He sees this as a threat. And he's like, this man's going to die today. Let me kind of explain a little bit what happens here. Adonijah requests to marry Abishag, a young woman who had cared for David. So Abishag had cared for David. So, all right, so she had some connection here. Solomon perceives this request as a challenge to his authority. Solomon takes action to eliminate the threat posed by Adonijah, and Adonijah is brought before Solomon, and his fate is sealed. And we're going to read that. Adonijah's request to marry Abishag was not simply a desire for a wife. It was a political move to assert his claim to the throne. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, taking possession of a former king's concubine. Oh, wait, did David have a concubine? Or wife was seen as a way to establish one's claim to the throne. Solomon, being aware of Adonijah's intentions, swiftly moves to neutralize the threat by ordering Adonijah's execution. Now, this is all just very fleshly, political, earthly. There's nothing spiritual about any of this. Like, if you want to try to write it and make it all nice and sweet, there's nothing nice and sweet about this. This is the same thing that happens and again, the mob. It can happen in any organization. Oh, wait. Oh, I see what they're doing. Oh, you're coming for me. You best not miss. If you're going to take a shot at me, if you're coming for the throne, you better not miss because I'm going to take you down. I mean, this is just fleshly stuff that you would see in any kind of organization. Solomon's like, whoa, Mom. What are you trying to do? Take my kingdom? I'm telling you, today, this man will be put to death. Solomon's like, what would God want me to do? How would God want me to treat my enemy? What about grace? What about mercy? What about reconciliation? No, it's like you're going to die. So King Solomon, now, please note, this sounds very much like Joab, the son of Zeruiah, that he's the first one mentioned, and his way of killing people seems very in line with the way a lot of this goes down. David wanting people killed, how Solomon's acting, there's some of the same motivations are present. Revenge or for selfish political motives. So then look what happens. Look what happens here, all right? Okay, so I got to find the passage here. So he asks she asks, he says, hey, do you take my whole kingdom? All right. And then he says, all right, he shall be put to death today. Then verse 25. So King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down and he died. So King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down and he died. And to Abiathar, the priest, the king said, go to Anathoth, to your own fields, for you are deserving of death, but I will not put you to death at this time, because you carry the ark of the Lord God before my father David, and because you were afflicted every time my father was afflicted. So Solomon removed Abiathar from being priest to the Lord, that he might fulfill the words of the Lord which he spoke concerning the house of Eli at Shiloh. Now, I would like to get into Abiathar and do a little work on him, but we've covered and studied Abiathar. For this purpose, he's like, hey, you're not going to die. But he had his own brother killed relatively quick. I mean, look at how fast it was. Adonijah shall be put to death today. And then the very next verse. In fact, I kind of stumbled through it just to show you how easily it is to just read over it. So King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down and he died. I mean, it's just matter of fact. Boom. Hey, this man's going to die. So what does Solomon do? He's sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down and he died. It's almost instantaneously. Boom. Just like that. Over. It's just, then immediately it goes to Abiathar. But he doesn't die. But what I want you to see, Solomon has his own brother killed. Now, it's his half-brother, because, of course, you've got a possible concubine mixed in there with David. You've got David's 8 wives. You've got these brothers from different mothers. You've got all this stuff going. And these are God's people. These are the people who believe in the true God. And then if you look at verse 28, then look who shows up. Then news came to Joab, for Joab had defected to Adonijah, though he had not defected to Absalom. So Joab fled to the tabernacle of the Lord and took hold of the horns of the altar. Which Joab is that? Is that Joab, the son of Zeruiah? Is it? Is that Joab? Is now are we getting ready to find out? Because remember, David said, kill this guy, right? David said, killed. So now what's getting ready to happen here? Now, I want to read it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it right there because I wanted you to just see Solomon has his own brother killed. So this is what we can say. Solomon was extravagantly foolish. I don't think there's any way to deny that because he was a serial adulterer, a serial polygamist, and an idolater. Not only that, Solomon, the one who gives us Proverbs, also serves as David's hitman. Now, you're going to see how it plays out. But here we have, in a sense, his first kill clearly outlined. His first killing. And who does he kill? His half-brother. He doesn't call in his half-brother to have a discussion. He doesn't call in his half-brother to have any... No. He perceives what my brother's doing is a threat. He's coming for the throne. And so Solomon, in a sense, more worried about his position, more worried about his power than he's worried about the life of his own half-brother. What does he do? So King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down. And he died. He kills his half brother. Now you may, I know everyone's going to say, well, this is what had to be done. This is the way you protect your throne. This is the way it has to be done. Now, this is where I struggle, right? And I think these are reasonable questions. Well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't they just trust God? It's because we're in the Old Testament. God intervenes in absolutely miraculous, powerful ways to eliminate threats and eliminate. He doesn't. But in this case, God is not even mentioned here. I want you to just see this. God is not. Where is God even being mentioned here? I think the one person who mentions God, is it not his brother? He's like, oh, I know the Lord put him on the throne. Now, again, he may be doing it in the most deceitful way possible. I'm not saying his motives were right. To me, Bathsheba had to know what was going on here. She had to. It's almost like she sets him up. Oh, you want me to ask your brother? She could have said, hey, come on now. You don't want me to ask your brother. If I ask your brother, you're dead. You know that. So go back to your mom. Go. You just get out of here before you die. Would that have been the wise thing to do? Or no, she comes and says, okay, you want me to ask? I'll ask. All right, I'll do it. And Solomon's reaction is, it doesn't even take a second. And King Solomon answered and said to his mother, now, why do you ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom also? For he is my older brother. For him and for Abiathar the priest and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. So please note, there's Joab the son of Zeruiah. Then King Solomon swore by the Lord, saying, may God do so to me and more also if Adonijah has not spoken this word against his own life. He spoke this word against his own life. Now, therefore, as the Lord lives, who has confirmed me and set me. Now, see, now he mentions God. Hey, now God is mentioned. As God lives, who has confirmed me and set me on this throne of David, my father, and who has established a house for me, as he promised to Adonijah, for me, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death today. Now, hey, God put me on the throne. Now, God put me on the throne. I'm going to keep myself on the throne. And that means I'm going to kill my half brother. And then what happens? Again. So King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down and he died. There is no chance for reconciliation. There's no discussing. There's no conversation. The man is just straight up killed. Then Abiathar is exiled, right? And remember, he mentions Abiathar up here, right? For him for he is my older brother, for him and for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. Now look, so Abiathar is exiled, and then we know what's going to happen to Joab. Right? We know what's going to happen to Joab. And is that the same Joab? Is that the same Joab mentioned in verse 5? Because he mentions Joab, the son of Zeruiah. And then guess what? Then news came to Joab in verse 28. Is that Joab, the son of Zeruiah? Because guess what? Now Solomon, is he now going to go ahead and now start killing the people that David told him to kill? But for this, I just want you to think about, he killed his own half-brother. So why Solomon? Solomon, the Proverbs of Solomon, the man who we all say is the wisest man ever. You can't miss his extravagant foolishness in many ways. An adulterer, serial, polygamist, serial. I mean, continually doing it. An idolater, and then look what happens. He murders his own half-brother. Now, is that the wise? You may say, well, that's wise. Yeah, what? Wisdom? Godly wisdom? Because that sounds like, look, there's nothing godly about having your half-brother killed because he's a threat to your position. There's nothing godly about that. That's what the world does. That happens in gangs. Oh, you're a threat. You want to be the leader of this gang? Hey, take him out and get rid of him. Come on. This stuff happens in gangs and the mob. It happens in terrorist organizations. And it can happen in countries where there's coups. So how do you perceive this? Now, we're going to stop there because now we're in verse 28. We're in verse 28. And now Joab. Now what you need to do is that Joab, the son of Zeruiah. If it is, what's going to go down? Now remember, I want you to remember how things happened with Joab, the son of Zeruiah. Remember, he is killed because he killed two people, right? He killed two people. He killed one out of simple revenge, and he killed the other because of position and power. And then Shimei is mentioned, later on. Shimei is the man who David promised not to kill, the man who repented, the man who did well, is he going to show up here in a little bit? The way some of these stories play out, they seem to, they kind of repeat themselves in the way some of these things, some of the same motives are there. Yeah, Shimei is going to show up. I already know he's going to. Oh, I already know. Of course, I know he's going to show up. I want to just. I wanted to finish all of this, but we spent a lot of time kind of talking about trouble right here in River City with a capital T, right? It rhymes with P. But there's trouble all over this text. Death, deception, names that I probably mispronounced. Okay, all right. No, I think I did pretty good on the names. There was one name I messed up. It's Joab, the son of Zeruiah, his brother. Or no, he kills, because Joab, the son of Zeruiah, kills Abner, and Abner had killed Joab, son of Zeruiah, his brother. Asahel. Asahel, I think is how you would say that. Asahel. Is how you would say it. I think I said, I think I tried to say Ashahel. I think I tried to put an H there. Then I'm trying to put I don't know how I tried to say it. I said it numerous ways, but yeah. But there we go. There's so much more I want to say here, but I want you to just see. And I think the realness of it. I mean, you may say, well, what do I do with this? These are real. Everyone in the Bible's a sinner. That's what you should take it. All of these horrible stories happen among God's people. That's what, and I know we have this mentality in American Christianity. Well, we don't act like that anymore. We do the same similar things. But the way we play it in Christianity is anyone who does not a Christian, we just throw them out of the kingdom of God. Where in the Bible, These people are not thrown out of the kingdom of God. They're spoken of and praised as David being a man after God's own heart. These men are praised. And you say, well, how can they be praised? Because many cases when God speaks of these individuals later on, he speaks to them not on the basis of their practice, but on the basis of their standing before him, their positional standing by faith. That's the only way you can understand it. Or you're telling me God's understanding or judgment of character is graded on a curve that then you can't really condemn anybody. If a serial adulterer, serial polygamist, an idolater, and a murderer can be spoken of as this great, wonderful guy, well, then don't condemn anyone's behavior. Or you have to say, how can he be spoken of in a positive way? Because he believed in God, and that's accounted unto him for righteousness. So in his position, he's perfect and wonderful. In his practice, he was a mess. David, in his position, wonderful. That's why he's mentioned in Romans as it's great when God does not impute sin to a man, because David would be in a good example. If God imputed his sin unto David, David would have been killed. Not only was David killed, David went on to, author a good number of the Psalms. He becomes an author of inspired scripture, even though he was a polygamist, an adulterer, and a murderer. And a lot of people say, yeah, but he wasn't able to build the temple. And Solomon was? Okay. Was Solomon much better in the situation? Yeah, the Bible is filled with real people just like me and you. Doesn't excuse my sin, doesn't excuse your sin. But it makes us understand that we're flawed human beings who cannot keep the law of God. And that's why we need a Savior who saves us by grace, not based off works. All right, next time, we find out what happens when the news came to Joab. Is that Joab the son of Zeruiah? If it is, then David told him to kill him. Now we're going to see what Solomon does and what Joab is going to do. If it's a different Joab, you better email me quickly. All right. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. I know that was long. I know we didn't get near as far as we want. I know there was a lot of repetition in that. So I know I'm going to get some emails criticizing. You repeated yourself way too much. But I want us to get these names. I have to repeat some of this, especially with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, because the reason he kills these two people, those reasons seem to show up in the actions. In some ways, you could even argue for David and in Solomon. And Shimei, this man who begs for forgiveness, and David literally promises not to kill him, that you've got to know that, especially for what's coming up. And David turns around and says, hey, well, I know I promised you, but you're going to die now. Hey, Solomon, go kill him. I mean, come on. You got to look at these and go, what are the motivations of this? We can justify it in all the ways we want, but any justification has this just being the same kind of fleshly wisdom that is carried out by people throughout history. There's nothing godly about any of this, and God is barely mentioned in any of this. All right. Thanks for listening. Everyone have a great day. Can't wait to get your thoughts. God bless.